He is Hong Yue, someone repaying his parents' debts. At this moment, inside the Xingshan Entertainment building, a series of footsteps can be heard. Everyone is greeting the boss. This tall and handsome man is the boss of Xingshan Entertainment, and also Hong Yue's uncle, named Han Dongqing. He is currently in the hall greeting newly signed artists. He hopes everyone will become hugely successful and achieve mutual success. Just as he is about to assign work, with a glance, he suddenly looks surprised. It turns out he has seen his nephew, Hong Yue. It seems Han Dongqing had no idea Hong Yue had come to his Xingshan Entertainment. Just as Hong Yue is about to greet his uncle, he sees his uncle suddenly turn away, no longer looking at him, as if he doesn't want to see him at all. Hong Yue widens his eyes, not understanding what he did wrong to make his uncle unwilling to look at him. Han Dongqing quickly assigns the work and announces dismissal. After the meeting was dismissed, He Dongqing didn't speak a word to Hong Yue. Zhang Yue stood there sadly, inside the boss's office at that moment. He Dongqing was checking Hong Yue's contract and then asked his secretary to pour him a glass of water. After hearing the secretary leave, He Dongqing was stunned for a moment. Suddenly, someone hugged him from behind, which startled He Dongqing. He Dongqing turned around and saw that it was his nephew, Hong Yue, who angrily held He Dongqing's face, asking what kind of look his uncle was giving him just now. Hong Yue then leapt onto the couch, frightening He Dongqing, who yelled for Hong Yue to get out immediately. Suddenly, Hong Yue grabbed He Dongqing's shoulders and with a snap, the contract dropped. Hong Yue pinned He Dongqing underneath him and softly called out uncle. Hong Yue said his parents were He Dongqing's enemies, but he would repay everything on behalf of his parents. Of course, he could also be considered an enemy, but he hoped that He Dongqing wouldn't look at him with that kind of eyes in the future. As he spoke, Hong Yue began to cry. Suddenly lying in He Dongqing's arms, he said that he had no parents anymore, only this uncle He Dongqing. He just hoped that his uncle could make him feel a bit of affection. He Dongqing felt Hong Yue silently crying in his arms. Feeling a bit of compassion, he slowly raised his hand and gently patted Hong Yue's back. Hong Yue suddenly opened his eyes. Yes, his uncle was comforting him. Like a child, Hong Yue hugged his uncle tightly. Uncle He Dongqing could hardly breathe from the hug and told him to let go quickly and to hurry up and repay his parents' debts. Hong Yue got up, rubbed his head, and happily agreed. He hadn't seen He Dongqing since he was a child. His mother had told him that his uncle was coming. At that time, Hong Yue was just a mischievous kid eating a donut. This was the younger He Dongqing. The first time Hong Yue saw He Dongqing, he felt a sense of affection for the uncle he had never met. His mother called him repeatedly and led He Dongqing inside. As they walked in, He Dongqing leaned down and told Hong Yue that he was his uncle from now on. Hong Yue was so stunned that he didn't even notice the donut falling out of his mouth. He Dongqing watched the donut drop to the ground, confused, then bursts into laughter. Isn't that naughty? Why does it feel wrong? It's clearly very desk, right? Looks at the violin beside and asks if Hong Yue can play. Hong Yue obediently stands up and indicates no problem. Then turns and runs quickly towards the violin, just to see Hong Yue pick up the violin, and the pleasant music begins to play. He Dongqing watches Hong Yue playing the violin, completely mesmerized. At this moment, Hong Yue is like a glowing little sprite, stirring everyone's soul. Hai Leu is surprised, and Hong Yue's mother complains that Hong Yue's dental strength is even higher than last year's ranking. Hong Yue's mother is also puzzled. How has the child changed from before? Before, when talking about performing, she would say let others go watch monkeys. But now, how would Hong Yue know about her mother and father's little schemes? It turns out that Hong Yue's mother and He Dongqing are not really siblings, but came together through a reconstituted relationship from the previous generation. He Dongqing also cherishes the current family, but does not know that this will plant a time bomb for the future. Hong Yue's parents are still playing the role of a happy family. Then they ask He Dongqing about his current studies, and He Dongqing only sees them as family. Planning to study film production in graduate school, hoping to make a name for myself in the film industry. The couple also praised He Dongqing for his ambition. But suddenly, Hong Yue's mother exclaimed in surprise, as she found Hong Yue eavesdropping. Today, he is very timid. He Dongqing looks at little Hong Yue gently, telling him not to be afraid and softly calling him over. Little Hong Yue shyly looks at He Dongqing and then runs over, asking why he isn't calling him uncle anymore. Hong Yue quickly says that's not the case, he wants to call him uncle. He Dongqing, looking at little Hong Yue, thought he didn't like him. Hong Yue's mother tells Hong Yue to bring a chair and sit there, but He Dongqing picks up little Hong Yue instead, letting him sit together with him. He Dongqing looks at little Hong Yue, thinking to himself that this is the first time he has felt familial love, having lived in a single-parent family from a young age. In the following years, little Hong Yue became the person He Dongqing cherished the most. However, one day, 5 years later, Hung Yue's parents revealed their true nature. He Dongqing was startled upon opening the door to find Hung Yue's parents terrifying like demons, demanding to know where the valuables were hidden. As He Dongqing entered, he grabbed Hung Yue's father, preventing him from rummaging any further, saying there was no more money for their gambling. However, Hung Yue's mother suddenly embraced He Dongqing, pleading for his help one more time. He Dongqing angrily stated that their gambling had already sold off his mother's and grandfather's belongings, even the money for his dream, and he urged them to think of their parents and children, that turning back was the right path. But advising two wolves to turn back was a joke. Hung Yue's father said they would never have agreed to their union if they hadn't known about He Dongqing's family wealth. He Dongqing was shocked, looking at his father's once kind face in disbelief. Then, Hung Yue's mother found the famous painting in a corner. He Dongqing hurried to intervene, saying it was his grandfather's last masterpiece, the last thing he had. Hung Yue's mother said that without it, they would be in mortal danger. Suddenly, with a loud thud, Hung Yue's father smashed a wine bottle on He Dongqing's head, causing blood to spurt instantly. But the following action laid the groundwork for future events. Hung Yue's father then thrust the bottle directly into He Dongqing's stomach, and He Dongqing fell to the ground in pain. He Dongqing fell painfully to the ground. His intestines spilled out, and it seemed like there was no way to save him. He didn't blame Lan Zhen for this at all. Until he fell and couldn't get up, the two didn't look at He Dongqing again. Regardless of his life or death, they left with the painting. In the end, it was the downstairs neighbor who found He Dongqing. He had half of his liver removed. A few days later, he finally came back from the brink of death. Hung Yue called out to his uncle in pain, tears streaming down his face as he kneeled before He Dongqing's bed. Hung Yue begged He Dongqing to get well quickly. He was willing to do anything. Although his parents had already escaped, he vowed he never would. Hung Yue would repay the sins his parents had incurred. He just wished for his beloved uncle to wake up soon. Lying in the hospital bed, He Dongqing clutched the sheets in pain, realizing he had been a target for Hung Yue's parents from the start. He Dongqing softly called out to Hung Yue. Hearing his uncle wake up, Hung Yue rushed forward. Seeing his awakened uncle, Hung Yue was extremely agitated. At that moment, He Dongqing was heartbroken and told Hung Yue that he must repay the debt of his parents. Hung Yue really wanted his uncle to recover quickly, so he agreed to He Dongqing's request. But from that moment on, Hung Yue began to repay his parents' debts. 8 years passed, and He Dongqing said that Hung Yue still owed him his grandfather's masterpiece and 80 million. Now, Hung Yue has grown into a handsome and attractive young man. He Dongqing continued, saying that when he was younger, he wasn't worth much money, but now it was time to repay the debts. Hung Yue stepped forward and said there was no need for He Dongqing to remind him. He would definitely take back the debt his parents owed. And that's not all. Ever since He Dongqing woke up in the hospital 8 years ago, Hung Yue had decided to give up on himself to repay everything, if that's what He Dongqing wanted. He Dongqing coldly asked if he wanted Hung Yue to spend the night with a coal boss. Hung Yue looked at He Dongqing and replied that he would do whatever He Dongqing wanted him to do. Could He Dongqing actually be planning to let Hung Yue spend a night with the coal boss? Then, he made a call to the coal boss, saying that among the newcomers, there was someone the coal boss might like, and asked the coal boss to come and take a look. Hearing He Dongqing's conversation, Hung Yue widened his eyes in disbelief. After the call, He Dongqing told Hung Yue that the coal boss would be coming soon, not knowing that at this moment, Hung Yue sadly lowered his head. He Dongqing warned Hung Yue not to just talk without taking action, as it would only make He Dongqing think he was still an immature child. Hung Yue, expressionless, asked He Dongqing if the coal boss was a client he couldn't afford to lose. He Dongqing turned his head and replied, "Of course," thinking Hung Yue was about to turn around and leave to prepare. Unexpectedly, a big hand grabbed him, pulling He Dongqing directly in front of him. Under He Dongqing's surprised gaze, Hung Yue actually kissed him. Time seemed to stand still. How melodramatic was this scene? The sound of a slap echoed through the room. Yes, He Dongqing slapped Hung Yue. Angrily questioning if Hung Yue was crazy, Hung Yue silently explained that he had never kissed anyone before. He agreed to spend the night with the coal boss, but his first kiss, he wanted to leave it with his uncle. He Dongqing's mind went blank, his eyes filled with disbelief. A knock on the door broke the awkward silence between them. A woman entered. Could she be the coal boss? The beauty approached Hung Yue and introduced herself as his agent, Zhang Li. Just as Hung Yue was about to inquire about He Dongqing casually said they'll talk about it later. Hung Yue suddenly understood, He Dongqing was lying to him. There was no such thing as accompanying a coal boss overnight. Zhang Li, the most experienced agent, told Hung Yue to call her sister Zhang from now on, and asked why Hung Yue's lips were red. Hung Yue straightforwardly said it was an accident. Sister Zhang said that should not happen again, as celebrities must take good care of their faces. He Dongqing told Hung Yue to go out if he had nothing to do, watching Hung Yue's expression, unsure if he understood He Dongqing's thoughts. Sister Zhang instantly realized that Hung Yue was He Dongqing's nephew. He Dongqing instructed Zhang Li not to spread the word. Besides the secretary, no one else knew. Zhang Li said no problem, whether Hung Yue was his nephew or not, she had to mentor him because Hung Yue had an inviolable aura. There seemed to be a trace of pain, something non-existent among his peers. She asked He Dongqing if his nephew had experienced some uncommon suffering. He Dongqing turned his head away, saying no. As Hung Yue walked home, thunder rumbled in the sky, and soon raindrops fell heavily. Walking in the rain, Hung Yue thought, did He Dongqing really think he would run away like a child at a scare? Touching the trace left by his kiss with He Dongqing, he was no longer a child. His phone pinged. Picking it up, it was a message from the school, asking Hung Yue to move his luggage out because of the new students. Inside the Star Map Entertainment building, He Dongqing stares out at the rainy night, lost in thought. Remembering what Hung Yue had done just now, He Dongqing feels a headache coming on. What a truly rebellious act. He only wanted to discourage Hung Yue, but unexpectedly, Hung Yue was really preparing to leave. Then a message alert on his phone snapped He Dongqing out of his reverie. Picking it up, he saw it was a message from Hung Yue. At that moment, Hung Yue was sitting forlornly under a bus stop. Staring intently at his phone, he tells He Dongqing that he wants to rent a place outside. He Dongqing checked the location, the bus stop where Hung Yue was. Casually tossing his phone aside, he thought about the many years he paid for Hung Yue's education. Was he expected to support him indefinitely? Then, angrily getting up, he threw. Thunder rumbled loudly outside as He Dongqing was happily taking a shower. After the shower, he took a look and immediately felt the absurdity of the situation. Hung Yue was actually at the bus stop. Could it be that he has always been? At this moment, heavy rain is pouring outside. Hung Yue is sitting on the curb at the bus stop. A call of Hung Yue makes him look up. A car drives towards Hung Yue. It turns out to be Hung Yue's uncle, He Dongqing, who angrily yells for him to hurry up and get in the car, not to stay in the rain. Surprised, Hung Yue shouts uncle. Inside the car at this moment, He Dongqing is angrily scolding Hung Yue. He threatens Hung Yue that for each illness, he will add 1 million more to the debt. If doubting, Hung Yue can try it. After a series of explanations, Hung Yue finally says he wants to stay at He Dongqing's place temporarily. He Dongqing, having no words, has no choice but to let Hung Yue stay until he finds a rental. Hung Yue responds happily. Back at home, He Dongqing tells Hung Yue the thermometer is on the table and asks him to properly measure his temperature. Watching Hung Yue's actions, He Dongqing thinks that Hung Yue is still the little Hung Yue from before. He Dongqing thought of young Hung Yue, whose habits haven't changed at all. As a child, Hung Yue would eagerly bring the thermometer to check his temperature. As an adult, Hung Yue is just the same. But why does seeing Hung Yue's face always remind him of his mother and his father's strong body that could have killed him back then? This is a scene that often appears in He Dongqing's dreams. Hung Yue carefully reached out to the trembling He Dongqing and gently asked him what was wrong. Then he embraced him. Suddenly, He Dongqing pushed Hung Yue away. The thermometer fell to the ground with a loud noise. Hung Yue looked at He Dongqing. He Dongqing couldn't help but start crying. Hung Yue was surprised and looked at He Dongqing. Kneeling on the ground, Hung Yue softly called out to him, saying it was Hung Yue. Praying that the gerfalcon does not resent him, he embraces the gerfalcon. He is Hung Yue, not someone who wishes to harm it. He will protect the gerfalcon. The gerfalcon finally regains consciousness and softly calls out, "Is it Hung Yue?" Hung Yue's response instantly puts the gerfalcon at ease. Holding Hung Yue tightly, the rain continues through the early morning. The gerfalcon lies in bed, looking at his phone. For 8 years, Hung Yue has never stopped sending messages to the gerfalcon. The gerfalcon wonders, will there be a day when Hung Yue realizes he doesn't need to repay his parents' debts and instead disappears without a trace? His heart is now in turmoil. He doesn't want Hung Yue to leave. He wants Hung Yue to repay what his parents did, even if it means sacrificing Hung Yue's entire freedom. The phone's notification sound wakes Hung Yue from his sleep. Hung Yue rubs his eyes and looks at his phone. It turns out the gerfalcon sent a message to Hung Yue, telling him he is thirsty and asking Hung Yue to bring him a glass of water. Hung Yue gets up and goes to the kitchen. He then brings the glass of water to the gerfalcon's room and asks, "Uncle, are you still awake?" The gerfalcon says it's because of thirst and asks Hung Yue to leave the water and go. Hung Yue walked to the bedside table, placed the water cup down, and then walked outside. At the door, Hung Yue turned around and told He Donking to call him if anything was needed. However, He Donking, who was lying in bed, only gave Hung Yue his back without saying a word. The morning sun shone on the city. At this moment, in the office, He Donking had arranged 2 plays that were extremely suitable for Hung Yue, and Hung Yue had already made his choice. He wanted to consult Zhang Li's opinion. Zhang Li said both roles were the third male lead. One was a brutal and lascivious prince who was eventually assassinated by a palace servant, and the other was a cool and handsome protagonist. Zhang Li guessed Hung Yue chose the first one. He Donking directly denied it, advising Hung Yue to take the second one, saying it's not ideal to aim for something too comfortably as the first role might backfire. It seems He Donking is still worried about Hung Yue. Although he speaks harshly, he is always worried about his nephew. In Hung Yue's room at the moment, Sister Zhang asked Hung Yue if he was very disappointed since the role he wanted to play was denied. Hung Yue calmly stated that he wasn't and that everything was up to He Donking's arrangement. On the way to the shoot, Sister Zhang picked up Xiaobin. Hung Yue sat in the car, watching Xiaobin running towards them. Xiaobin enthusiastically greeted Hung Yue, revealing he was the one playing the role of my friend Xiaobin in this shoot. Hung Yue responded indifferently. Sister Zhang explained today's schedule to them and reminded both to perform well today. Suddenly, Xiaobin tugged at Hung Yue's arm and unabashedly whispered in his ear, saying he looked very handsome and he really admired Hung Yue. Then, he suggested that they form a CP team as forming a CP could make them more popular. Hung Yue glanced at him and without hesitation. "Sorry," said Hung Yue. He wasn't interested in forming a CP. Xiaobin kept talking undeterred, but Hung Yue firmly stated he had no interest in hyping up a CP. At this moment, Sister Zhang suddenly interrupted their conversation, mentioning that Boss Han said he might visit the set to watch their shooting if he had time. Hearing his uncle might come, Hung Yue was visibly happier. Upon arriving at the set, Hung Yue took his acting very seriously, and despite this being his first time, he quickly immersed into his role. The onlookers couldn't help but marvel, noting that the newcomer was not only handsome but also very skilled in acting. Hung Yue's superb acting was completed in one take. Cut. The director was very satisfied. Zhang Jia also applauded and praised it. Hung Yue perfectly portrayed the feeling of having someone in his heart he couldn't attain. He acted really well. The director suggested everyone take a break. Hung Yue took a deep breath and relaxed himself. He immediately saw his uncle, who had come to the theater to inspect. He happened to meet his uncle's gaze. His uncle saw Hung Yue's performance just now and nodded in approval, showing he was very satisfied with it. Hung Yue didn't expect his uncle to see his efforts and recognize them. He was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. After discussing the next scene with the director, Hung Yue couldn't wait to find his uncle. Just as he reached the door of the lounge, he heard voices inside. Through the crack in the door, he saw Xiaobin, who was supposed to form a CP with him, standing in his uncle's room. Xiaobin shyly told Han Donking that he had bipolar disorder. He had a scene in the afternoon and felt like his heart rate was a bit off. As he spoke, he took Han Donking's hand and asked him to feel his chest. Xiaobin stared directly at Han Donking, asking if his rapid heart rate was abnormal. At this moment, Hung Yue outside the door, her eyes full of anger, is wondering what the hell this guy is up to. Han Donking impassively watches Xiaobin, saying he thinks it's normal speed. In a blink of an eye, Xiaobin is about to reach out and touch Han Donking's wound. Seeing his hand about to touch her uncle, Hung Yue suddenly rushes over and grabs his hand. Xiaobin is bewildered by this sudden interruption, asking Hung Yue what she's doing, while Han Donking looks on indifferently. Before Xiaobin can react, he is pulled outside by Hung Yue without explanation. Han Donking watches their retreating figures with a speechless expression. He turns to call Zhang Li, saying he needs to go back to the company for something and asks her to keep an eye on them. Outside the resting room, Xiaobin, fists clenched and with a sullen expression, angrily asks Hung Yue why she pulled him away while he was talking to the boss. Hung Yue looks at Xiaobin with hatred and asks what he's trying to do. One minute he wants to start a conflict, the next he's harassing the boss. Later, he went to pester the boss again. Xiaobin's eyes were slightly red as he complained about his desperate desire for fame, but since Boss Han only liked women, he had to cater to that preference. Upon hearing this explosive news, Hung Yue was taken aback, a flash of surprise crossing his eyes. Shocked, Hung Yue asked Xiaobin what he was talking about and who told him that. Xiaobin looked down and said it was just a rumor, then asked Hung Yue if he was also planning to seduce the boss, noting that Boss Han only liked the petite ones. Hearing Xiaobin's words, Hung Yue's pupils shook in disbelief as he stared at him. Xiaobin did not notice the change in Hung Yue and became dejected, while Shui Maowen trembled slightly, muttering to himself that if he didn't land a role at 28, he might as well not live. After a moment of silence, Hong Yue looked at the suddenly deflated man in front of him. When Hong Yue questioned whether Xiaobin truly believed his lack of popularity was due to not flattering the boss well enough and losing face, no, Xiaobin was aware he wasn't handsome enough and his acting skills were not top-notch. After some thought, Hong Yue agreed to form a CP, celebrity partnership, with Xiaobin, but only for this drama. Hong Yue was curious to see what would happen if they formed this CP. Upon hearing Hong Yue's agreement to form a CP with him, Xiaobin's previous gloominess vanished. Overjoyed, he eagerly agreed. Hong Yue took control with both hands, Xiaobin's earlier words echoing in his mind, "Uncle only likes the petite and delicate ones." Hong Yue glared fiercely at Xiaobin, warning him not to seduce the boss again or else he would bite him. After dealing with Xiaobin, he quickly went home. He put down his things and looked around, noticing that his uncle had not yet returned. Exhausted from filming for over 10 hours, Hong Yue felt tired. He sat down on the sofa to relax and couldn't help but think of his uncle. Every day, he wondered whether his uncle had abandoned him on the street or regarded him as property to pay off debts. Still, Hong Yue felt warmth in his heart. Although he had not gotten the role he wanted this time, he had no issues as long as his uncle was willing. Hong Yue felt that now, aside from himself, who else could make up for the injustices his uncle had suffered? His uncle shouldn't have to bear such things for no reason, so he had to do this. Lost in his thoughts, Hong Yue wandered around. Suddenly, he noticed that his uncle's bedroom door was open and, unable to resist the temptation, he quietly sneaked in. Standing in the room, he looked around and noticed that his uncle's bed had a single-person comforter and pillow, and the wardrobe only had his uncle's clothes. At that moment, Hong Yue breathed a sigh of relief. If he had found traces of another man or woman's presence, Hong Yue felt he definitely wouldn't have been able to stand it. Upon entering, Hong Yue walked to the bedside and quickly noticed so many medicines on the nightstand. Overwhelmed by guilt and sympathy, he realized that removing part of the liver must have caused significant harm to his body. He used to be so healthy. Now, in his 30s, the nightstand is filled with medicines. Thinking of his uncle's painful condition, Hong Yue sadly lowered his head. Just as Hong Yue was about to leave, he suddenly noticed that the bedroom was connected to a study. Hong Yue carefully opened the door and entered, curiously and attentively examining the furnishings in the study. Suddenly, he saw a Buddha statue incongruously placed on the bookshelf. Hong Yue stared at the Buddha statue, wondering when his uncle had started believing in this. Looking at the statue, Hong Yue inexplicably felt very uncomfortable. Just then, he heard the front door make a sound. His uncle had returned. Hong Yue hurriedly left the bedroom. Upon entering, his uncle casually asked if Hong Yue had eaten yet. Hong Yue said he hadn't. Seemingly expecting this, Han Dongqing calmly mentioned that there was a boxed lunch on the table. Seeing the 2 lunch boxes on the table, Hong Yue was slightly startled. He had not expected his uncle to buy him lunch. However, Han Dongqing said with a tsundere expression that he was just used to buying extra. Before he had finished speaking, Hong Yue quickly ran to the table to pick up the lunchbox. The lights were bright outside the house, and the 2 people inside hadn't sat down to eat together for many years. This scene had only occurred during their childhood. During the meal, Hong Yue felt down again, wondering if his uncle really hated him that much as he bowed his head. Without a second thought, Han Dongqing answered Hong Yue that he didn't hate him, it was just that. Listening to his uncle's response, Hong Yue widened his eyes, expecting him to continue. Although the uncle understood that none of this was Hong Yue's fault, he still chose to continue pretending. He coldly stated that he only cared whether Hong Yue could pay him back. The uncle's response deeply hurt Hong Yue. Of course, he would pay him back. Hong Yue didn't tell him that it was because of his uncle that he survived. He simply couldn't accept that his parents had abandoned him and fled until he found out that his New Year's money had been withdrawn, and then he knew it was the truth. At that time, Hong Yue didn't know how to face his uncle in the emergency room. He was standing on the rooftop of the hospital, thinking about jumping off. After hearing this, Han Dongqing looked at Hong Yue in shock. He never knew Hong Yue had done so much for him. Hong Yue continued, saying he even went to his music teacher, asking him to refund the prepaid tuition fees to pay for his uncle's medical expenses after Han Dongqing woke up. At that time, Hong Yue was solely focused on earning medical expenses for his uncle, completely unaware that he was nearly falling into a trap set by bad people. Without a second thought, he decided to follow the swindler. This man boldly claimed that if Hong Yue followed him, he could make money. Hong Yue was tempted. Meanwhile, in the hospital room, Han Dongqing asked the nurse about his nephew. The nurse said she saw Hong Yue leave with a man and that the medical bills had already been paid, saying it was tuition refunded from dropping out of school. Han Dongqing's eyes widened instantly, and his instinct told him something was wrong. Outside the hospital, Hong Yue, who was walking with a man, heard someone calling him. He turned around and saw the nurse running towards him, telling him that his uncle wanted him to come back. Hong Yue replied that he had already found a job and could earn money to treat Hai Dongqing. However, the nurse added that if Hong Yue didn't return, Hai Dongqing would personally get out of bed to find him, which was extremely dangerous in his current condition. These words made Hong Yue stop in his tracks. The thought of Hai Dongqing risking his life to get out of bed to find him made Hong Yue's eyes widen in shock. Little did he know that the man had sneaked away. In the hospital room, Hong Yue hurriedly rushed back to Hai Dongqing's room. Hai Dongqing looked at the breathless and exhausted Hong Yue. Tell Hong Yue that he still has some overseas funds. Don't allow Hong Yue to leave Hai Dongqing's sight on his own accord. Decisively tell Hong Yue to go to school quickly. He doesn't want to owe Hong Yue anything, otherwise he will never forgive himself. Holding back his tears, Hong Yue softly replies that he understands. At this moment at the dinner table, Hong Yue and Hai Dongqing are reminiscing about the past. Hong Yue laughs and calls himself silly for almost being abducted back then. But what Hai Dongqing is thinking is indeed different from Hong Yue. But Hai Dongqing's thoughts indeed differ from Hong Yue's. He just didn't expect Hong Yue had also considered self-sand. That period was not only Hai Dongqing's dark time but also the low point for Hong Yue. Hai Dongqing deliberately ignored Hong Yue's pain. As night falls, Hong Yue pushes open Hai Dongqing's door, asking if his uncle is watching a movie and if he could join. Two exceptionally handsome men sit on the sofa watching the movie, while Hong Yue sneaks glances at Hai Dongqing. Hai Dongqing just quietly watches the movie, prompting Hong Yue to turn his attention back to it. Unconsciously recalling past bits and pieces, young Hong Yue admires the actors on TV for their impressive performance. Hai Dongqing laughs, questioning what a kid like him could understand. Huh? Hong Yue explains that the lead actor must have done a lot of preparation to perform so well. Hai Dongqing is reassured, surprised that Hong Yue, at such a young age, could appreciate this aspect of the work, while other kids would probably just talk about the big stars. Thus, in harmony, they watch the TV. Hai Dongqing casually asks Hong Yue which he would value more, a work where he's the sole highlight or one among many highlights. Hong Yue expresses that he prefers others liking his work over just liking him personally. Liking just the person is too uninteresting. Hai Dongqing listened to Hong Yue's response. As expected, it was just like when they were young, his answers never disappointed him. Suddenly, a big hand reached out. It was Hong Yue, and he said that at Hai Dongyu's age, there was only one Taiten that could be used as a Chun Kaili. Hong Yue suddenly leaned in close. What unexpected thing would happen next? Hong Yue touched Hai Dongqing's face and ambiguously said he hoped Hai Dongqing liked him more than anything else. After saying that, he kissed Hai Dongqing passionately. Hai Dongqing looked at Hong Yue in disbelief. Just as Hong Yue was about to kiss Hai Dongqing, a voice echoed in Hai Dongqing's ear. It was his first kiss. Hai Dongqing struggled to break free and shouted Hong Yue's name loudly, hoping he would come to his senses. Hai Dongqing looked at Hong Yue in fear. Concerned, he asked if he had scared him again. Hong Yue pleaded with him not to be so afraid and said he would do his best to make up for the harm Hai Dongqing had suffered. Hai Dongqing said softly that some wounds could never be healed completely, and he could never go back to the way he loved and cared for Hong Yue before. Hong Yue suddenly interrupted Hai Dongqing, saying he didn't want to go back to the past. For example, just to coax a child. At this moment, Hong Yue is in painful conflict. He has been enduring, and it's been very hard for him. From the first time he saw Hai Dongqing, Hai Dongqing looked at Hong Yue at this moment. A man's sixth sense told him that things were about to get out of control, and what Hong Yue was about to say next was something Hai Dongqing couldn't bear. Just as Hong Yue was about to shout that he had always liked him, he was interrupted by Hai Dongqing, who asked if he had thought about how to act in the next scene. Hai Dongqing got up directly. He had already given Hong Yue the opportunity. If Hong Yue couldn't do it, how would he repay the debt? He then walked out of the movie room, leaving a dejected Hong Yue sitting there alone. Back in his room, Hai Dongqing had just finished drinking water when he heard a notification from his phone. He picked up his phone and saw a message from Hong Yue. It said that he would not disappoint Hai Dongqing. The script was scattered on the ground. Hong Yue sat on the carpet absent-mindedly studying the script. His feelings for Hai Dongqing were not just simple dependence, but another kind of emotion that even he felt was sinful. He frequently fantasized about Hai Dongqing at night. Hong Yue was convinced that he would tirelessly live up to what Hai Dongqing expected. Hoping that Hai Dongqing would always stay there waiting for him. The next day inside the Star Map Entertainment building, Hong Yue asked Sister Zhang if the company had bought him zombie fans again, otherwise how could his followers have exceeded 1 million in just a few days? Sister Zhang said no, it was just that one of his films had gone online and all were genuine fans. Hong Yue found it incredible, questioning if it was really that impressive. Sister Zhang reported to He Dongqing that it had been online for a week already, and both leading actors were popular stars. Adding to Hong Yue's own charm, his popularity had been continuously rising. He Dongqing, puzzled, asked Zhang Li what was up with this super topic. Upon checking, Zhang Li explained that it was a CP, couple pairing, super topic created by fans, because the two of them in the drama were both sassy yet supportive of each other, which was very appealing. He Dongqing suddenly became serious, saying if it was spontaneously done by the fans then it was okay, but initiating CP shipping or any off-screen intimate actions were strictly forbidden. Such short-term benefits are useless for an actor and might even impact their future negatively. Zhang Li commented that her nephew really was different, taking care of everything personally. If it were any other newcomer, probably a different approach would have been taken. He Dongqing remained silent, thinking that Hong Yue could not afford any more troubles. After all, he still needed to earn money to pay back He Dongqing. A few days later at a press conference, the person whispering in Hong Yue's ear was the woman who the fans had once shipped with Hong Yue. By then, this was discovered by the netizens watching. Hong Yue angrily warned the woman to keep away from him, as he had not agreed to cooperate to such an extent. Tell her not to go too far, especially with her hands. The woman dismissively replied, "What's the big deal? Even though they are supporting roles, they are still very popular. Why not make more money now?" He retorted that Hong Yue had so many fans right after her debut that she couldn't understand his feelings. He longed for every move to be noticed by netizens. That dark period had finally ended, and he just felt this feeling was like. Before he could finish his sentence, Hong Yue interrupted. Hong Yue asked him to take out a mirror and take a good look at himself. The order to ban the CP came directly from the boss. Unexpectedly, the other person mocked Hong Yue, saying she should also look in the mirror. Hong Yue listened with a cold expression as he spoke. He said she thrived on external support and would collapse without it, unlike Hong Yue who didn't care about others' opinions at all. As he spoke, he reached out to Hong Yue, saying that although she was a strong individual, she seemed hesitant in her actions. Lying on Hong Yue, he said his acting career was his own, not the boss's. Moreover, the boss's goal was public profit, and they were just pawns. If fans liked watching, let them watch. After all, not making money when you can is a bit foolish, isn't it? Hong Yue, with an unreadable expression, said it didn't matter. She reiterated that if the boss said not to do it, then it shouldn't be done. She finished speaking and directly walked away, not forgetting to turn back and remind him that for the second half of the performance, he shouldn't always be checking his face on site. He said that if he went back to the way he was before, he would wither like a flower. Hong Yue states that the withering has nothing to do with him, quite unprofessional indeed. The other party hastily strides away, declaring she would never be unprofessional. Then she runs off, and as she passes Hong Yue, she makes a face at him and quickly dashes away, leaving Hong Yue feeling awkward on the spot. Inside the building, employees report to He Dongqing that director Shemo Yuzi has arrived. He Dongqing instructs them to bring the director to the reception room and that he will be there shortly. At this time in the meeting room, He Dongqing and the director exchange pleasantries. He Dongqing mentions that the hotel arrangements are ready and asks the director to hold a celebration banquet with their actors and crew. However, as the coffee is passed, the director touches He Dongqing's hand. This subtle action causes He Dongqing to lower his gaze. The director expresses that he would actually prefer to have a meal alone with He Dongqing. Han Dongqing's hand is touched while passing the coffee, and this chubby fellow in front of him even thinks of asking Han Dongqing out for a meal alone. Han Dongqing quickly withdraws his hand, declining the director's suggestion, saying that the schedule is already set and it's not good to change it, perhaps another time. With no other option, the director couldn't insist on his excessive request. Han Dongqing stands up to go to the celebration first. After leaving the meeting room, Han Dongqing disgustingly wiped his hands with a disinfecting wet wipe. I never imagined that this circle, filled with countless dreams, could be so filthy. It's simply revolting, like a slaughterhouse. Xia Bin was excitedly sharing that he had been approached for a new play today, and they said they needed him specifically. Xia Bin said it gave him a glimpse of new light, and Hong Yue congratulated him. Just then, a person approached. It was Hong Yue's uncle, Han Dongqing. Little did they know, Han Dongqing saw everything clearly. Xia Bin suddenly threw himself into Hong Yue's arms. Han Dongqing didn't make a sound, just quietly watched the scene unfold. Xia Bin explained that this time, he really just wanted a hug, and it wasn't about forming a couple. Hong Yue softly comforted him and gently ruffled Xia Bin's hair. The wet wipe quietly fell to the ground. At this moment, Han Dongqing's expression was unreadable, then he walked away dejectedly. At this time, in the hotel, a group of people sat together enjoying a celebration meal, unaware that a sneaky fatty under the table was making small moves, actually creeping up Han Dongqing's leg. With no alternative, Han Dongking could only dodge and was unable to make any resistance. Hong Yue looked utterly dispirited. The fat director complained that Han Dongking didn't give face and refused to drink with him. Han Dongking explained it was due to health reasons that he couldn't drink. Unexpectedly, the fat director publicly criticized Han Dongking for lacking sincerity. And to think he's still the boss, really dampens the mood. At this moment, Hong Yue suddenly picked up a glass and said he would drink on behalf of the boss, and that he was willing to drink in any manner. However, the fat director directly mocked Hong Yue, questioning his qualifications and stating if he really wanted to please him, he should make Hong Yue and Xiaobin kiss right there for him to see. What a disgusting director. Han Dongking remained silent, while the fat director continued, saying he decides when they can stop. This directly shocked the other two. Just as Hong Yue and Xiaobin were about to take action upon exchanging glances, Han Dongking stopped the farce. He then snatched the fat director's glass and said he would accompany the fat director to drink to his heart's content, and after a swing, drank it down, causing Han Dongking's face to turn somewhat flushed. Hong Yue looked on in disbelief at this scene, hurriedly rushing to Han Dongking, scolding him for being reckless, questioning how he could drink. He then pulled Han Dongking towards the restroom to make him vomit, but the disgusting fatty was unwilling to let Han Dongking go, even starting to make comparisons with others. Hong Yue didn't care about that much, angrily pushing the fat director, blocking their way to one side. In the private room where Han Dongking was escorted out under everyone's gaze, the chubby director lost face on the spot and subsequently threatened that Hong Yue would never make it in the industry. Suddenly, the secretary angrily exclaimed that he had recorded the entire dinner as instructed by Han Dongking. The chubby director started to panic, and the secretary added that they had given him face, assuming the director wouldn't want to completely fall out with them and would prefer to maintain a veneer of peace. Upon hearing this, the chubby director collapsed to the ground, his face breaking out in a cold sweat, while from the bathroom, the sound of vomiting continued unabated. Hong Yue asked with concern if Han Dongking felt any better, then pulled him into an embrace. Hong Yue firmly stated that he would become stronger and no longer let Han Dongking get hurt. Han Dongking reminded Hong Yue that the path in this industry is tough and to be prepared. Hong Yue looked at Han Dongking unperturbed, stating that no one will insult Han Dongking in the future, not even the chubby director. He declared that even if it ends his acting career, he will still beat him up, and then he held Han Dongking tightly in his arms. Something seemed to be changing in Han Dongking's heart. Hong Yue told Han Dongking to rest for a while before going back, then sat down on the toilet. Hong Yue also asked Han Dongking to sit here. This scene seems like Han Dongking is sitting on Hong Yue's lap. The two sat there quietly. Han Dongking slowly reached out to touch Hong Yue's hand. From deep within Han Dongking's heart, it seemed to spark a very mysterious feeling. Han Dongking suddenly asked about the relationship between Hong Yue and Xiaobin, noting how close they seemed. Hong Yue suddenly opened his eyes, counter-asking whether Han Dongking was referring to their public or private relationship. Han Dongking urged Hong Yue to spill everything, asking rhetorically, "Don't you have any words to say?" Instead, Hong Yue burst into laughter, leaving Han Dongking utterly confused. "Why would you even think of such an unreliable thing?" laughed Hong Yue, baffling Han Dongking even more. "Why would you think of such an implausible thing?" Han Dongking looked down, feeling perplexed, then said, "Who knows what one might think." Suddenly, Hong Yue stopped laughing. Seriously facing Han Dongking, he started to unbutton Han Dongking's shirt, startling Han Dongking greatly. Han Dongking struggled to refuse letting Hung Yao look at his scar and made Hong Yue get up, furiously shouting at Hong Yue, who was after all his uncle. With a dazed look, Hong Yue said, "So what?" and slowly let go of his own hands. Han Dongking seemed to be also captivated by the atmosphere, with Hong Yue fantasizing about something. Han Dongking held Hong Yue's shoulders tightly when suddenly a series of urgent knocks on the door startled them awake. It was a colleague from the company asking if the boss needed anything. Han Dongking panicked while fastening his buttons, saying he would be ready soon and telling Hong Yue to go out first. Hong Yue watched Han Dongking's back as he fastened the buttons, and Han Dongking felt as if he had been abruptly awakened. Indeed, he had reverted back to being Hong Yue's uncle, Hong Yue's creditor. The rushing feelings of shame and guilt were about to drown him.